Vevor digital ultrasonic cleaner. Hello and welcome to Lancaster Hi-Fi. I've found that cleaning records is one of the best ways to improve the sound of vinyl. However, record cleaning devices are rather expensive, typically pushing $1,000. And while that's not a huge amount of money, it's not been within my budget. At least I haven't made it a priority. Rather, I have relied on a relatively laborious means, employing homebrew solution and a goat's hair brush and large dishes to fully immerse records in these baths. And that actually works pretty well. I've had some really good results that way. But arguably, it's not as effective as, say, ultrasound, which brings us to this contraption here. This is an ultrasonic cleaner. It's a rather generic sort of 6-liter ultrasonic cleaner made by a company called Vevor, V-E-V-O-R. But this one is sold with attachments and accessories, in particular this business here, which involves a spindle, and we've got record spacers that are about the size of a label. Then we lower the records into the bath, we turn the bath on, we turn on this motor here, and it rotates the records through the bath and ultrasonically cleans them. Ultrasonic cleaning works by the cavitation and collapse of microscopic sized little bubbles. People have good results with it. The cleaners, typically sort of all-in-one devices that use ultrasonic cleaning, they're pretty expensive. Well, this one here you can get for $150. That's the MSRP on it. I think you might be able to get it for less. However, it doesn't necessarily substitute for the other steps. From what I've read online, you do still need, or at least there is a large benefit to be had from physically cleaning off grime and then also rinsing in a bath. And so that's what I have set up here, or rather the remains of that setup here, which is physically cleaning in a bath solution with the brush in one bath, then going through an ultrasonic cleaning cycle to get the microscopic stuff out of the grooves, rinsing in a distilled water and isopropyl solution, and then wiping with a microfiber towel to get off the large amount of water, and then air drying in the rack. And the results are pretty nice. Now, a lot of the records you see right here are records that I previously cleaned with only the brush. And so at this stage, I've only cleaned them with the ultrasonic cleaner, such as this one. Today is Sunday, and I started cleaning a week ago Saturday. And of course I had a work week in there, so I didn't do a whole lot of cleaning during that work week, but I did some. There were a couple of nights where I did a lot of cleaning. What I've got about 50 records right here. I've probably cleaned about 200 records, but maybe more like 250 or maybe 300. I've kind of lost count in a week. So this is still a labor-intensive process. This is still part of a light budget, high labor solution. While I want this video to serve as a description of record cleaning and its benefits, this video is also a review of this particular device, which was provided to me for free by the company, on the condition that I do this review. They didn't dictate what is contained in the review, of course. That's up to me. What is then my opinion of this? Positive but guarded. The manual contains no information about using it as a record cleaner. The apparatus to enable using it as a record cleaning device is an add-on. The description of how to use that add-on feature is just one printed page of color photographs. And the photos don't even show every little thing. Well, I went to Vevor's website, first of all, to see whether there were additional instructions there. And no, not really. In fact, when I went to the sort of question and answer on the page on which they sell this device, there was even conflicting information in some of their answers. For example, one answer said, no, you don't need to use distilled water. Tap water will do. You can clean 8 records at a time, no worries. But then another answer said, use distilled water only, and maybe only clean 3 or 4 records at a time. And I found a site, a rather comprehensive site, describing the method and the benefits of using an ultrasonic cleaner. And that's where it said the ultrasonic cleaner isn't going to remove visible, grimy stuff off the surface of the record. One example of this particular record by the Stranglers had some sticky stuff on it. The ultrasonic bath did nothing to it. I finally had to use the little swab with isopropyl and get that off. And then the sticky stuff came off relatively quickly. So the ultrasonic cleaner does not obviate the need for manual cleaning. It essentially adds a step, and what one hopes is a very effective step. Okay, so that's one problem, that there weren't any instructions for how to use this to clean your records. If you buy one of these, you're on your own in figuring out how to use it. It's easy to operate. It's pretty intuitive how to operate it, but how long, what temperature? It's got temperature setting and time setting. It does not have a way to adjust the power. It doesn't have a way to adjust the rotation speed. And so if you want to change the rotation speed, say make it slower, I believe this is 7 RPMs. If you want to make it more like 1 RPM, then you're going to have to do some DIY circuit stuff to figure that out. The very comprehensive website that I found that described ultrasonic cleaning and its benefits suggested that a relatively modest power level was important, but this device does not allow one to adjust the power level. So I'm in the position of hoping that the power that this uses is insufficient, at least over the time that I used it, to damage my records. And I wish I were in a position of more than hoping. I wish I had some more assurance from a company that was devoted to records that the method that they were providing wouldn't damage them. Let's get to the crux of it. Am I glad to have this device? Yeah, I'm glad to have this device. Having it motivated me to clean a lot of records. And having it will motivate me to clean more records, because it is effective at reducing surface noise a lot. Yes, surface scratches and defects are still going to cause little pops and clicks. It doesn't solve all problems with old records. I have one old record that I played last night. It's a recording of Piatigorsky playing Bloch's Shalomo for cello and orchestra. One of my favorite songs. But the Piatigorsky record, although it looks pristine, just has a lot of surface noise. And unfortunately, this didn't make that go away. I've cleaned that record 3 times now. That noise is just in there. That's too bad. But again, other records, especially new records that don't have decades of stylists going through grooves and perhaps welding little bits of stuff into those grooves over the years, new records are coming out with almost no pops and clicks whatsoever. It's pretty amazing. If you want an easy way to clean a lot of records, this is not it. This is a relatively cheap way to thoroughly clean a lot of records in conjunction with other physical mechanisms, the brush and the bath. Is it worth the price? Yeah, I think so. The price is not very high. Would I have bought it if it had not been provided to me for free? I don't know. I'm kind of cheap. I mean, I'm a guy who, like $150 will get me a new pair of speakers. I mean, not a new pair of speakers, but another pair of speakers. Now, maybe me telling you that this device takes the surface noise, the pops and clicks, sort of down and to another low level below that of just physically cleaning. Maybe that motivates you to spend $150 or less if you can get a discount. And in fact, click on the link below, you can actually get a 5% discount on this. Full disclosure, I actually get a small 5% commission on sales through that link. I mean, I would have done this review whether there was any of that sort of kickback or not. So, it's relatively easy to use. There's just a few controls for temperature, time, on, off, main on, off switch here, another on, off switch for the motor that turns the records. We've got the quarter turn valve here and a drain to drain out the liquid. It's still full of liquid right now. I need to put all these records away before I can manipulate the quarter turn valve to drain it. There's a hose that is leading off camera to a jug that I've got down there to catch the fluid. It holds 6 liters, so that's definitely more than a gallon. I mix my cleaning solution in gallon jugs. I need about 1.5 gallons to fill this. And that means typically I need a bit more than 2 gallons for both baths. This typically takes maybe 3/4 of a gallon. Then in addition to a whole other gallon, I typically need to make another liter or 2 to top this off. So yeah, I think I do recommend it. Like I said, I wish I didn't have to hope that it wasn't too powerful. While there are guidelines that you can find online for how much power one should apply, I don't know how well established and based on actual data those guidelines are. That said, my experience has been good and has motivated me to clean a lot of records this week. And I'm going to stop for now because I've gone through all the distilled water that I bought. So I got a couple things delivered to my porch recently for cleaning records. One is a natural goat's hair 3-row vinyl record brush. And this has generally been my method for cleaning records when I clean records rather than just dust them. I regularly dust my records with the carbon fiber brush, but when I wash records in liquid, I use goat's hair brushes. The idea with the goat's hair is that the goat hairs are very fine and reasonably stiff so that they can penetrate the grooves and so on. 3 whole rows of them, and they're on the longish side. New unused microfiber cloth. There are other cloths that are recommended specifically for use with records that I might try at some point, but I've had really good luck with new out-of-the-box microfiber, never washed. I have also made the mistake of using the washed ones, and that's a bit of a disaster. The first time you play the record, the needle comes out, with just microfibers all over it. But you play the record a few times and you scoop those microfibers out of the grooves, and the carbon fiber brush gets some out, and it'll be fine. This arrived on my porch this morning. I have been asked to review it in a video, and so that's what we're doing. But having just gotten it, I want to take it out of the box, and I thought, well, why not? Let's do an unboxing of the Vevor 6-liter ultrasonic record cleaning machine. So let's check it out. Just at first glance, this looks like your basic ultrasonic bath. There we go. Accessories. This does come with a rack, a drying rack, and so that looks kind of like what this is, but it may also be part of the mechanism to hold the records while they go through the bath. Here we've got your basic ultrasonic bath lid. Keep dust from the room from settling into your cleaning bath while you're not cleaning. We got a hose. Big old quarter turn brass valve on the side. All right. Some knobbies. A basic 3-prong cord. Some wing nuts and washers. And discs. These are label size. And more. A box with some on here. And that looks like the business end of a motor. So this is probably the DC motor that turns the records in the bath. A tea making device. That's interesting. DC power supply. It's light, so we've got a switching mode power supply. 24 volts, 1 amp out. But we have Vevor ultrasonic cleaners, TH-30A, 6L for 6 liters, 40 kilohertz ultrasonic. ultrasonic 180 watts, heating 150 watts, made in China. Vevor Tough Tools half price. Next to last, we've got a little barbed fitting, barbed on one end and threaded to fit here. The barbed end of the fitting would clearly go into this hose. Last, out of the bath, some literature. Picture guide, in any case, some color photos, and user manual. Here we have the power input module, on-off switch, and of course the valve that I showed before. Oh, look, we've got some nice controls here on the other side. Vevor digital ultrasonic cleaner. We've got temperature controls on-off for the heat part of it. Okay, so we've got the main power input on-off switch on the back, but on the front we've got the on-off for the temperature, so heating it, and over here is just for the ultrasonic. In our little user manual, of course, it shows us the controls. Got a bit about daily maintenance, recycling information. Finally, are we gonna I'm seeing nothing about how to actually use it. Maybe it's just this. Let's see. What the heck is this for? Unless it's simply a bonus from our friends in China. It says, do keep the lid on during use. This will prevent splashes and reduce evaporation of the fluid. Well, that's literally not a thing. You can't keep the lid on with records sitting half submerged there. This is a digital ultrasonic cleaner. This is a manual for the digital ultrasonic cleaner. It is literally nothing to do with cleaning records, because this is a generic ultrasonic cleaner, can be used with anything. It's the accessories that allow you to use it with records. It appears that the only record-specific advice I have is this set of photos. This is all like, turn it off when you're done and unplug it when not in use. Do not get water directly from the tap. So we have literally no instructions. I've been doing a bit of research online about the best methods for using the ultrasonic cleaner to clean records. I will first say that the Vevor website, pretty unhelpful. There was a Q&A, but the answers given just did not seem trustworthy. Moreover, they were often contradictory with one another. I'm in the basement. You can hear the sound of draining fluid. So I found a website that had the sort of right combination of anal retentiveness, bad formatting, way too much to read, and lots of references to audio karma threads to appear trustworthy. And here's what they recommended. If your records are truly filthy, don't use the ultrasonic cleaner as your first step. Use something with brushes as the first step. 2, temperature between 31 and 33 degrees C. Or was it 31 and 35? Anyway, something around there. Lower than body temperature, but kind of warmish. 3, use a cleaning solution with surfactant. In fact, a lot of emphasis was placed on using a good cleaning solution as being perhaps more important than the rest of everything in terms of methods. 4, use a rinse. Use a rinsing solution. Whether just distilled water or distilled water with a little bit of alcohol. And in this particular online thing, it recommended actually pure ethanol as the additive. I don't have any of that. But they didn't really give a good reason why ethanol was particularly more important and isopropanol wouldn't do. Probably just use isopropanol since that's what I have. In terms of cleaning solution, they recommended approximately what I have, but also the addition of a quat. So what's my plan? Mix up a bunch of the solution, and I'll go over how I do that. Okay, so the process goes, mix a small amount of Triton X, which is a turgitol variant, and isopropyl alcohol, because the Triton X will dissolve in the isopropanol and does not dissolve well in pure water. So dissolve those two together and then mix that alcohol and Triton X solution with a modest amount of distilled water to form a concentrate that you can store for a while. And then make big batches, per gallon with distilled water. Well, I think the quat was also a sort of an antimicrobial to better allow long-term storage of the cleaning solution. I don't see anything growing in that Triton X alcohol concentrate. Have at least 3 cycles of cleaning. 1 manual cleaning in the dish with the goat hair brush and solution bath. Now, some people will cringe at that because it will involve submerging the entire record. And people go, my labels. And in my experience, the labels are to some degree affected, but the effect is minor. They're not bleached out, they don't come off. There may be a slight amount of little bubbling, not like big bubbles, just slight, very small marks. It's not ideal. So the manual cleaning bath, and then directly into the ultrasonic cleaner. The manual cleaning bath, I can only do 1 record at a time. I'll have to take records from there to the drying rack to just hold them while I do however many records I'm going to do at once in the ultrasonic bath. So manual bath to drying rack, and then batch of records to the ultrasonic cleaner. The website that I looked at recommended towards the top of the page, it said don't use more than 60% power, and by power I mean the ultrasonic power. Don't use greater than 60% power, otherwise you risk doing permanent damage to the record itself. Further down in the page it said 80%. So manual, holding in the rack, ultrasonic cleaner, and finally distilled water bath. As I take the records off of the ultrasonic bath, I can just rinse them in the distilled solution and then set them in the drying rack. So here's the concentrate that I have left over from the last time I made some solution. You can see what its recipe is. Record cleaning concentrated solution, 4% Triton X, 4% iso alcohol, 92% H2O. Use 100 milliliters per 4 liters cleaning solution. I found a couple of jugs that also had the basic recipe in terms of contents on them. Here we have a more explicit breakdown of the components with some fluid left in there, and as I looked in there, there's some mats, microbial mats floating around. So yes, I suppose for long-term storage of this, the recommendation of an additional antimicrobial ingredient is warranted. Again, I don't have the antimicrobial stuff. In my experience, this stores for a while without developing these mats, but this has been in here for years. Here are the major active ingredients. This is sort of medical grade, 99% isopropyl alcohol, and Triton X. You can see the label there, Electron Microscopy Sciences. Toxic to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. Causes serious eye irritation. Yeah, this is to be used with lots of care. I think at the level of 0.1%, we're probably below hazardous concentrations in terms of disposal. But I wouldn't want to go pouring this stuff down the drain. Certainly not in the gutter. Got a couple of graduated cylinders and a funnel to facilitate measurements and mixing and so on. This is a 250 milliliter graduated cylinder. The other is a 500. And we'll measure out the concentrate in the 250 milliliter graduated cylinder. Not sure there's actually quite enough in here for a full 4 liters or gallon. Gotta assemble this thing. Instructions are limited to this page of photos. First piece to assemble is the big frame kind of holder, this piece. So let's try it. Let's try following the instructions. I think it is this in here, which goes in here and will do the job of straightening this thing up. Yeah, look at that. Very nice. Okay. We need to get this centered, I think. Okay, it wants to walk. Okay, let's try that. Next, we mount the motor. This via the bigger knobby here. This one. Check this out. So it's got this particular sort of nut here, you know, with the sort of built-in washer, almost grippy thing. But that does not appear to go against anything. In fact, that appears to hold the nut into the slot. The motor is then mounted like so. And this goes through here. So we can adjust, ultimately we can adjust the height with this, because the motor has the spindle here. So it is the height of the motor that adjusts the height of the spindle, which would then control also the height of the records on said spindle. Alrighty, now we put the spindle attachment on. So it has a tightening screw, a machined smooth thickness, and a threaded part with this. And I will deduce from the fact that this is a record cleaner that this is the proper diameter for the center hole of the LP. The motor spindle does have a flat part. Loosen the set screw and slide that on there. Tighten the set screw. I want to make sure the valve here is closed before I fill it with fluid. It appears that the hose and the fitting are solely to drain the tank. There is a drain hole in the bottom of the tank. I'll go ahead and attach the hose to the barbed fitting. Here, of course, the discs for spacing the records. Finally, we do have this DC power supply and power cord. So DC should just go right here. Power cord for AC power. These are the pieces that I have to assemble the drying rack. I have 4 things that look like this, 2 things that look like this, and a bunch of wing nuts and washers. And no instructions. The sheet of photos does not include a photo of the rack assembled. What I'm envisioning is that we'd have 2 that would go, say, here and here, then another 2 that would go down here, something like that, to support the records. We have wide latitude as to where exactly to place them. I'm just winging it with the wing nuts. Haha, funny joke. Something like that. Does that look like a record rack? Maybe? Well, maybe. But it needs adjustment, doesn't it? I mean, on the plus side, you know, this would serve for, you know, different size records. 10 inches, 7 inches, I suppose. Okay, I think that'll work. There we go. As I said before, and as is noted here, this is to be used as 100 milliliters per 4 liters. And just for kicks, I did the conversion and calculation for how much per gallon. So a gallon being 3.77 liters, that would mean I'm supposed to use 95 milliliters per gallon. 95 is right. Sure. Well, shit. Only have 69, maybe 70 milliliters. So I need to mix up some more. For that, I'm going to put on the gloves because I don't really want to handle the Triton X without some gloves on. So I'm going to transfer the concentrate to the larger graduated cylinder. 4% Triton X, 4% iso alcohol. So if I want to make 250 milliliters of solution, that's 4 milliliters per 100 milliliters. 4 times 2.5 is 10. So 10 milliliters each of the Triton X and the iso, and then the rest water. First, the Triton X. This stuff is kind of syrupy. It's a little bit difficult to measure since I have to wait for it to run down the side to the bottom. And it would appear that I am just an amazing pourer, and I got it just right. Good Lord. I'm going to pour this in while the Triton X is still there. I would not necessarily recommend that in all cases. However, given how syrupy the Triton X is, I want to in part use the isopropanol to wash it off the side of the graduated cylinder. But that means I do want to be very careful to get no more than 10 milliliters of the iso. It's 10, 30, 50. So I need to fill to this mark here. Measure from the bottom of the meniscus. I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that's got it. Smidgen more. All right, I think that's it. Mix in here. Again, the main function of the isopropanol is to dissolve the Triton X. As you saw, or at least as I said when I was pouring it, it is a rather viscous fluid. So I think the idea with the isopropanol is that once it dissolves in the isopropanol, then we should have something with a viscosity more similar to that of water. Or at least, I mean, maybe not that low of viscosity, but at least a viscosity less than the original Triton X, and I would hope several orders of magnitude less. And it appears that that the resulting solution is actually very low viscosity. It looks similar to that of water. I can then fill the rest with H2O, and that will be our concentrate. That, I think, has got it. There we go, 250 milliliters of concentrate. Concentrate appears to keep indefinitely without the addition of an antimicrobial. I'll just do a couple of inversion mixings to make sure that that's fully mixed. Although I expect that the process of pouring and decanting has likely made it fully mixed, but just to be on the extra safe side, I will do a few more inversion mixings. So I'm going to pour this back into here. This will give me a greater precision of measurement. These are 2 milliliter gradations and these are 5 milliliter gradations. Alright, that appears to be exactly 95. I will go ahead and put the cleaning solution into the jug. I might try to top it off later after the foam has gone down a bit, if it does. If not, I could just pour more water in there to displace it. Wash with brush in here. Got the goat's hair brush. Wash with brush in here, put in rack, until I've got enough records to put through this bath and then rinse in here and then back to the drying rack. Well, I might use the brand new towels to wipe off excess water. That's generally been my practice in the past, and it seems to be good practice as long as the towel's never been washed. And it occurred to me that this could be super satisfying to see, so see how much I care about you, my viewers. Huh. Oh, the simple pleasures of life. Since I'm going to be essentially holding the record down and scrubbing with the other hand with the brush, I've put neoprene tape on there to protect the record so that it's not potentially scraping against the plastic in the dish. Scrub, flip, scrub to drying rack. First fluid. I just need to get enough to get over the top of the neoprene, plus a bit. I've chosen a bunch of records to start with, all new. Cleaning new records is as necessary as cleaning any record. There seems to be quite a bit of variation in how dirty new records that I've bought have been. So yeah, that's more than half a gallon. Anyway, so I've chosen to start with a bunch of new records. Now, I don't think new records are going to be as dirty as old used ones, and that's why I'm doing the new ones first, so that my cleaning solution will go a bit farther before I need to change it. Yeah, we'll be needing more. Alright, made that extra gallon of cleaning solution. This thing needed to be filled almost to the brim. I mean, I'm judging by where the edge of the plastic disc is, that you know, the records are going to need to dip in almost to where that disc is. That requires filling this thing up kind of alarmingly full. I've got it turned on. I've got the temperature set to 33 degrees C, and the heater is supposedly on. It's only been a minute or so. The temperature has not budged because it has the actual reading temperature. And that says 15, and it hasn't moved. So it may take some time for this to heat up. I hadn't really counted on that. Anyway, though, I'm going to get started cleaning records. I've got a bunch of archival quality inner sleeves, Hudson Hi-Fi sleeves. So that's my signal to myself that I have cleaned that record when it's in one of these. Although I've got some that are in those sleeves that I haven't cleaned yet, and I just know that I haven't. Oh, my labels. I've got the timer set to 15 minutes, which was the recommended time. This will do up to 30 minutes, but 15 was recommended. I'm using 2 spacers between each record. These discs are actually slightly smaller than the labels. I've taken one batch through already. Here's the second batch through the system. I've got 4 here that have been all the way through the distilled water bath and dried with the cloth. And these that have been through the first process, and these 4 that have just finished with the ultrasonic cleaner. These will now be rinsed. Figure, you know, 4 records is good for a cloth. This is the same way I've done it previously without the ultrasonic cleaner. It doesn't dry it completely, it just it gets off the big drips. And I can sort of dry off the label as well. There's no power adjustment on here. So some notes here. I've got a bunch of records done. It's a bit tricky getting this to the right level to not have the label drag in the water, in the fluid. The thermostat doesn't seem to keep it. You have to keep pressing that, turning it on. I don't know why you'd have to turn it on more than once, but it does seem that you do. And it doesn't ever seem to have gotten it all the way up to 33 degrees Celsius. But you can see the operation of it here. I've got the temperature set to 33, but apparently you have to turn that on again. And the timer sets to 15 minutes. You can set the timer to whatever you want. Set it to 15 minutes. Once you turn it on, it starts the countdown and it automatically turns off the ultrasonic when it gets down to 15, or when it reaches 0. And you have to power that and the rotating thing separately. And I'll start it rotating first. Quitting for the night. Notice the label on this one. And of course I am immersing them, right? First step, last step is immersion. But they're only then in there for like, less than a minute. Like 30 seconds in this one maybe a minute. And like definitely less than 30 seconds in that bath. But then they spend 15 minutes in here. These discs don't really protect the labels. The label can be all the way up out of the fluid, but it's rotating and it runs down. And so you get this bit of discoloration, that wetting around the edge, which doesn't bother me that much. Obviously, I'd rather it weren't discolored at all, but it doesn't bother me if the price is like a record that sounds much better. I was saying to my son here, say hi, Eldon.
Hello.
When I go over to visit Chris and I bring records, he says, "Oh, you want me to clean that for you?" And he goes and he pops it in the thing, and then it's in there for a while, and then he brings it back out. It's all done. This is not that kind of system. It doesn't dry. You can't just, I suppose you could just leave it hanging around with a bath full of fluid in it, but you still gotta rinse, and doesn't keep the labels dry. So, it's like, "Oh, do you want me to clean that for you? By the way, your label will be wetted." And if you're not okay with that, then... So it's not that kind of cleaning system that you just pop it in there, pop it back out, and it's done. But that's kind of okay with me, although, well, sure, would I like to have a system like that? Yeah. This one costs $150. So you do a little comparison shopping, see if you can find any record cleaning system for that little money. But what is this? Basically, it's Vevor makes ultrasonic baths, cleaners, whatever. And then they sell these attachment systems that go with them. They don't sell this kind of stuff separately, which is kind of shitty, but oh well. So we're at day 2 here, and I just figured it'd be good to show my procedure for getting the records set up so I don't have to dry my hands between every first stage. Instead, get 4 records out of the sleeves and into the one end of the rack, then move them into that first stage. And popping with static. That's the thing, you know, new records, they may be reasonably clean, or they may not, but they all just are super staticky, which is a pain in the butt. I am incidentally using the same fluid that I started with yesterday. The fluid so far, all the baths are very clear. And again, because I've been only washing new records so far. So this is day 3 of cleaning records. Today I've been cleaning some records that I've previously cleaned. The ones that I've previously cleaned, I decided not to put any of those through the brush and bath, and just put those through the ultrasonic bath and the rinse. I've gotten quite a bit faster at this. So now when I've been taking the records off, I've been putting them immediately to the rack, taking the ones that have been sitting on the rack just a little bit after this bath, putting those immediately onto the cleaners, getting that started before rinsing the records that I just took off. So rinsing those, putting them back to the rack, and then getting out more records, putting them here, and then giving them this bath and brush, putting them here, and so on. It means I can start the next cycle right after the previous rather than waiting for the rinsing and wiping with towels. So I figured, you know, as long as I'm cleaning records, I'm cleaning clean records. That is, records that I've cleaned with the brush but not ultrasound. I'd go ahead and see if I could get 8 records on here to do the ultrasound. I mean, people say online that you shouldn't do as many as 8. I can't fit 8 records on here. 6. 6 is all I can fit. That's with discs on both sides. Now you see I got 2 discs there, but that's simply because I just wanted to put 2 discs on there. There is not room on the machined spindle part to put another record. That would have been 7 if I'd crammed another one on there. It's just 6. Can cleaning make a record from Goodwill sound good? Let's check it out. This is one of the last ones I washed. So it'll also be a test then of, did I replace the cleaning fluid often enough? Sorry, couldn't resist rickrolling you like that. But I think the point is still made that whatever we might think of that song in this album, that sounded pretty good. I mean, you know, as good as it can. Cleaning is very beneficial for new records as well as old. Some of my new purchases were nearly unplayable due to the static discharge that would occur every time I put them on. And now, having cleaned them, that's just not an issue anymore.
To all the ladies in the place with style and grace, allow me to lace these lyrical douches.
Before cleaning, when I took this record off, it would just go my turntable would go wacko. It's a total pain in the butt. You know, even if the cleaning isn't perfect, it makes such a big difference just for every play of the record. Let's try a perennial favorite of mine used for testing. Good old Best of Bread. And you might ask why I still use the brush. It just takes off any dust. It's not like dust isn't going to get on your records anymore. But you give it a thorough clean and you may only ever have to do it once. Still a little surface noise.
Baby, I'ma want you. Baby, I'ma need you.
Just every record I'm playing just sounds amazing. Really noticing the high end really coming out really clearly, the bass as well. I mean, it's just all sounding much clearer. Could be my imagination. Could be other changes that I've made to the system since I've played some of these records. Let's try one that I played just the other day. Played it as a comparison with one that I had cleaned with the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm interested to hear what I'll think of it now. Again, this is one that I had cleaned with just the brush, and now I've cleaned it with the ultrasonic. When I say just the brush, I mean not this brush. I mean the brush in the solution bath. This brush, in fact. I was hoping the ultrasonic cleaner had removed some of the pops that I remember hearing at the beginning of that song, and I think those pops are still there. So, unclear to me that the ultrasonic was a significant improvement over simply the brush and fluid. I think it's still worth doing the ultrasonic, to be perfectly honest about it. It's hard to tell that there is a big difference before and after ultrasonic cleaning with this one. I guess my big recommendation then would be wash your records. Whether you go with an ultrasonic cleaner, goat's hair brush is pretty cheap. And the results of manual cleaning are pretty amazing. While the ultrasonic cleaning maybe does something, I'm not sure how much it really did in the case of that particular record. Having done that particular comparison just by ear, I don't know, makes it kind of hard to recommend the ultrasonic cleaner. Now, I don't really know how it does as a single step in any case. I'm going to enjoy listening to some records. Another experiment or trial. I've got 7 records on there that I did not scrub first, and these are not brand new. In fact, these are all albums that I bought in 1985 or 86. And one of them has quite a bit of fingerprints all over it, and I took a picture of that, a high-res picture of it. The rest are reasonably clean, but there's a little bit of dust and whatever on them. And I want to see just how well this will do without the aid of the goat's hair brush and that particular cycle. And I'm also wanting to try to keep the labels dry, see if I can do that. I think I'm going to try the bath with distilled water and isopropanol in it and just see how it goes, see whether I can keep these labels kind of dry or maybe even really dry. So, did a bunch of records with just the ultrasound and a rinse, but trying not to completely immerse the record during the rinse so that the label doesn't get soaked. And I was pleased enough with the early results that I went ahead and did a bunch more. My people, what have we learned? I have learned that ultrasonic only does fine for a lot of records until you put in a record that's got scum on it, like fingerprints. So I cleaned a record with fingerprints. It was REM's Fables of the Reconstruction. Had fingerprints on it. Who the put fingerprints all over my copy of Fables? Gee, anyway, thought that'd be an interesting test. Put it through the ultrasonic bath, see if the fingerprints all come off. And for the most part, they actually did, but I could detect a bit of smear on the record. Here's what I want to try. Brushing seems to be actually beneficial, maybe necessary. Here's the plan. Put one record on at a time. Hold the brush, well, with this thing down so the records are in the fluid. So I'll have to stick this under the surface and do a bit of scrubby as it turns. Do that for a few rotations, stop it, take the record off, flip it around, put it back on. Again, scrubby for a few rotations, and then put on another record. Do one side, flip that record around, do the other side. Till I've loaded it up with records, and then I go with the ultrasound bath. That seems to be the best way I can figure to get the benefits of brushing without a whole nother dish full of fluid and also submerging the labels, which, you know, I'd rather not submerge the labels. It'd be pretty cool if I could find a way to do that without getting the labels sopping wet. Each record I put on, I let it rotate a few times, holding the goat's hair brush against the record, maybe sloshing it up and down just a bit, turning it at least 3 times. Then take the record off, turn it over, put it back on again, do the other side. And that way I can use the brush against the outermost record and stack on as many records as I want behind it, or, you know, stack them as I go. When I've gotten as many records as I want to have on there, then turn on the ultrasonic bath with the records in it and the rotating and all that. Let me show you the rinsing process that I've come up with to keep the labels from getting too wet. Okay, so first thing, just loosen this, slide the whole majigger up, let them drip dry just a bit. And I'll take them off one at a time and rinse them off in the rinse bath. Again, the rinse bath is mostly distilled water with a little bit of isopropyl in it. Okay. That's all there is to that. Towel here to rest it on, and it will drip onto. Take the clean towel and wipe off the water. Give the labels a decent drying with the cloth. But these are not dry, you can probably tell. Okay, I think you get the idea. I cleaned this record and it was just skipping a second ago. You can just see right there where the highlight is. I move off of it, you can see that spot there. Won't come off. I don't know what it is. It's just like glued on there practically. I've been trying to get it off by just spraying a bit of the cleaning solution on there and then trying to scrub it with this goat hair brush, but it's not working. So the foam swab and isopropyl, I was able to get it off. Well, I appear to have gotten it off. I had to go at it with a second swab and alcohol, and then I just took it back out to my cleaning station, pulled out the distilled water, rinsed it off with distilled water, dried it with a microfiber towel. It's still a little dusty, but boy, I hope that doesn't turn out to be a thing. I hope this is a fluke. This is a pretty new record. I mean, well, bad for that kind of thing to happen to any record, but I know it wasn't there before.
Is this the real life? Is this just...
Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to get one of these, check out the link below. Understand and know that I will get a bit of a kickback from that, and you will get a bit of a discount. Don't even know how they're going to pay me that commission. That part's not really important to me. I don't mind it, but not important to me. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.